Christmas Eve, 1945. A night typically filled with the warmth of family and the innocent magic of the season, instead became the prelude to one of the most perplexing and enduring mysteries in American history. In the small, unassuming town of Fayetteville, nestled in the rugged landscape of West Virginia, the Sodder family, George and Jenny, along with their 9 children, settled in for what should have been a peaceful night. Little did they know that tragedy, shrouded in a veil of unanswered questions, was about to irrevocably shatter their lives and ignite decades of agonizing uncertainty. George Sodder, an industrious and somewhat opinionated Italian immigrant, had carved out a successful life for his family through his trucking business. His wife, Jenny Cipriani Sodder, a deeply religious and devoted mother, managed their bustling household. Together, they were parents to 9 children: Sylvester, Marion, George Jr., John, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty. That fateful Christmas Eve, 5 of their children, the older ones, Maurice, age 14, Martha, age 12, Louis, age 9, Jenny, age 8, and the youngest, the cherubic Betty, just 5 years old, would inexplicably vanish from the face of the earth following a devastating house fire that left behind more questions than answers. The evening of December 24th had been filled with a typical Christmas Eve excitement. Some of the children had received new toys, and the family was looking forward to the following day's festivities. As the night deepened, the children gradually drifted off to sleep. Around 12:30 a.m. on Christmas morning, Jenny Sodder was awakened by the ringing of the telephone. A woman's voice, one Jenny didn't recognize, asked for someone Jenny had never heard of before hanging up with a strange, unsettling laugh. Jenny, disturbed by the call, went back to sleep. Approximately an hour later, Jenny was jolted awake again, this time by the smell of smoke. She found the living room engulfed in flames. George, Jenny, and 4 of their other children, Marion, Sylvester, George Jr., and John, who slept in a separate part of the 2-story house, managed to escape the inferno. But the 5 children sleeping upstairs were trapped. What ensued was a desperate and ultimately heartbreaking struggle to reach them, a struggle that would be etched into the family's memory for the rest of their lives. George Sodder frantically tried to reach his children on the upper floor. He yelled their names, but there was no response. The intense heat and thick, acrid smoke billowed through the stairwell, making it impossible to ascend. In his panicked state, George raced outside, hoping to find their ladder, which was usually propped against the side of the house. But on this crucial night, the ladder was inexplicably missing. He then attempted to drive their 2 coal trucks up to the side of the house so he could climb onto the roof and reach the children's windows. However, both trucks, which had been working perfectly the previous day, stubbornly refused to start. Amidst the roaring flames and the shattering of glass, the house was consumed. By the time the fire department arrived, delayed by a reported faulty phone line and a treacherous 2-mile drive from town, the Sodder home was nothing more than a smoldering ruin. In the cold, gray light of Christmas morning, the family and the authorities surveyed the scene, expecting to find the charred remains of the 5 missing children. But what they discovered defied logic and ignited a mystery that would endure for generations. Despite the intensity of the blaze, which had completely destroyed the wooden structure of the house, investigators found no trace whatsoever of the 5 children. No skeletal remains, no teeth, no fragments of bone. Nothing that would definitively indicate that 5 human beings had perished in the inferno. This complete absence of physical evidence was deeply unsettling and immediately fueled suspicion among the family and some members of the community. How could a fire so intense consume an entire house yet leave no trace of 5 bodies? The initial investigation, conducted by Fire Chief F.J. Morris, concluded that the fire was accidental, likely caused by faulty wiring. However, this conclusion was met with skepticism by George Sodder, who insisted that he had recently had the electrical system inspected and deemed safe. Furthermore, several inconsistencies and strange occurrences surrounding the fire began to emerge, casting doubt on the official explanation. Witnesses reported seeing a ball of fire on the roof shortly before the blaze erupted. Others claimed to have heard a loud explosion. Adding to the unease, George Sodder recalled a strange man who had visited his property months before, warning him that his house would go up in smoke and his children would be taken away as a punishment for his outspoken criticism of Benito Mussolini. This same man was reportedly seen observing the fire from across the street. Haunted by the lack of remains and these unsettling circumstances, George and Jenny Sodder refused to accept that their children had died in the fire. Convinced that they had been abducted, they embarked on a relentless and heartbreaking quest to uncover the truth. They hired a series of private investigators, each offering glimmers of hope that ultimately faded into disappointment. They pursued countless leads, many of which proved to be dead ends or elaborate hoaxes. In 1949, 4 years after the fire, George and Jenny took a bold and highly public step. They erected a large billboard along Route 16, a major thoroughfare passing through Fayetteville. The billboard featured photographs of their 5 missing children and offered a $5,000 reward for any information that would lead to their safe return. Later, they increased the reward to $10,000. This poignant display of parental hope and desperation became a landmark, a constant reminder of the unsolved mystery that hung over the town. Over the decades that followed, the Sodders received numerous letters and tips from people claiming to have seen their children. Some reported sightings in Florida, others in Texas, and even as far away as Italy. Each lead was painstakingly investigated, often at the family's own expense, but none ever yielded conclusive proof. One particularly intriguing lead came in 1968, nearly 23 years after the fire. The Sodders received a letter postmarked from Kentucky containing a photograph of a young man with strikingly similar features to their son Louis, who would have been in his early 30s at the time. The letter included a handwritten note on the back, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie boys." The family was electrified by this potential breakthrough. They hired another private investigator, who traveled to Kentucky to investigate. However, the investigator mysteriously disappeared and was never heard from again, adding another layer of intrigue and frustration to the already complex case. Despite this setback, the Sodders held onto the photograph, believing it might hold the key to their son's fate. As the years turned into decades, the Sodder children's disappearance remained one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in American history. George Sodder passed away in 1969, never knowing the fate of his 5 children. Jenny Sodder continued to live in the family home, her heart forever heavy with grief and uncertainty, until her death in 1989. Their surviving children carried the torch of hope, tirelessly pursuing any new leads that emerged, clinging to the possibility that their siblings might still be alive somewhere. The theories surrounding the Sodder children's disappearance are as numerous and varied as the years that have passed. The initial ruling of an electrical fire has been heavily contested, not only by George Sodder but also by subsequent investigators who pointed out inconsistencies in the evidence and the lack of any identifiable cause for such a rapid and intense blaze. The absence of human remains a central point of contention. Experts have suggested that a fire hot enough to completely incinerate 5 bodies would have left behind some skeletal fragments, particularly teeth, which are highly resistant to heat. The fact that no such remains were found fueled the abduction theory. Some speculated that the bodies were removed before the fire, while others suggested a less conventional explanation, such as the possibility of the fire not being as intense as initially believed in the specific area where the children were sleeping. The strange phone call Jenny received shortly before the fire, the missing ladder, the non-starting trucks, and the warnings from the mysterious visitor all contributed to the suspicion of foul play. The Sodders themselves believed that someone had deliberately set the fire as part of a plan to kidnap their children. Their outspoken criticism of Mussolini's regime, a stance that was not universally popular in their community with a significant Italian immigrant population, was cited as a potential motive by some. Another theory that gained traction over the years involved a local crime family with alleged connections to the Sodder family's business dealings. Some speculated that the children may have been taken as retaliation or leverage in some unknown dispute. However, concrete evidence to support this theory has never been found. The photograph received in 1968 continued to intrigue many. While its authenticity was never definitively established, the resemblance to Louis Sodder at the estimated age was uncanny enough to keep the hope alive for the remaining Sodder siblings. The disappearance of the investigator hired to explore this lead only deepened the mystery surrounding the photograph. Over the decades, the case has been revisited by numerous amateur sleuths, journalists, and even retired law enforcement officials, each attempting to piece together the fragments of this tragic puzzle. New technologies in forensic science have been considered, but without any original remains or conclusive evidence, definitive answers remain elusive. The disappearance of the Sodder children stands as a chilling testament to the enduring power of the unknown and the profound grief of a family left with a lifetime of unanswered questions. The unusual circumstances surrounding the fire and the complete lack of physical evidence have transformed a local tragedy into a haunting legend, a case that continues to captivate and perplex those who encounter its unsettling details. While the original billboard along Route 16 is long gone, the story of the Sodder children persists in the collective memory, a somber reminder of the fragility of family and the enduring hope that sometimes flickers even in the face of unimaginable loss. The fate of Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty Sodder remains an open wound, a poignant symbol of the mysteries that can forever haunt the landscape of our lives, leaving behind only whispers and the aching question: what truly happened on that Christmas morning in West Virginia?